Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Next is approval of the minutes. Everyone's had an opportunity to review those. Move to approve. We have a second. Dan, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Next up is the director's report. I'm going to turn it over to Chad.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Members of the Transportation Policy Body, good afternoon. As you all know, WAMPO is committed to developing a long-range transportation plan and also developing the short-range transportation plan, called TIP, Transportation Improvement Program. I've requested our staff, Ashley Bryce, to develop a schedule for the long-range transportation plan because call for projects happens once in 5 years. So staff wanted to remind all jurisdictions ahead of the time. So I will request Ashley Bryce to share the schedule for the upcoming plan. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you. I am Ashley Bryers, the Transportation Planning Manager with WAMPO. And this slide shows the key milestones for the upcoming long-range transportation plan development. So we are forming the Plan Advisory Committee right now, and then we will be doing the call for projects in next fall/winter. So just wanted to make you all aware of that. And then the plan needs to be approved and done by May of 2025. This graphic is in your packet with more information if you'd like to see it. Thank you.
I'm looking at this year to also update on RFPs that are upcoming and so on. Thank you.
Thank you. So the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan RFP was released over the summer, and it closed on September 2nd. We did the interviews and consultant selection, and so now we're working through the process to hire a consultant, and we will be coming back to you hopefully on November 8th with a consultant. And then the project will start and we'll wrap it up by August-ish of 2023, so we can submit for a Safe Streets and Roads for All grant.
Actually, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do we have to approve that on November 8th? That's election day, and we've been discussing maybe just canceling the November meeting.
Yeah.
Do we have to do it on November 8th? Is there a time constraint?
There is a bit of a time constraint. We could move it to December, but then that would push our schedule off a whole month. But if that's what we need to do, we can do that.
Okay. I guess I asked the body, is there anyone that believes that we really need a meeting in November? I just don't want to stop people from having an opportunity to go to the elections that day. It's kind of an important day. Does anyone see a reason to hold a meeting on November 8th? See any at this point in time? If something comes up between now and then, well, we'll let you know. For now, we probably will cancel the November meeting.
Okay, thank you. So then the next one is just the economic development report. And this will help us identify cost benefits of some transportation projects as far as economic cost benefits. That RFP was issued on September 20th, and it will close on November 4th. And then we will go through the process and hopefully have a contract approved in December. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashley. The next item, I know Dora is compiling all the bicycle and pedestrian counts that we have collected when many volunteers have helped, and we are very thankful. Dora, could you give an update on when we'll have the compiled report?
Thank you, Chad. I'm Dora Gallo, Transportation Planner. Currently, like Chad said, I have collected a lot of the forms, still looking to collect some more because we are missing some data, but I'm hopeful that I'll have everything done by November to present at the next TPB, or the TPB in November.
December. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item we have is Alicia. He's keeping an eye on grants and funding opportunities besides the formula funds. So anytime we see certain grant opportunities, I reach out to Alicia to keep an eye on, share with the board. So Alicia is sharing the timelines and the grant programs available. Alicia.
Thank you, Chad. My name is Alicia Hunter. I'm a senior transportation planner. So we wanted to highlight some of the KDOT funding program opportunities that they have, and there's two of them. One is the cost share program with applications that are open twice a year in the spring and the fall. The fall application opened in August and has since closed. So the next application opportunity will be in February for 2023. And then the other funding program opportunity is the Economic Development Program. That one has open applications all year long, excuse me. And the best point of contact at KDOT would be Michelle Medium, and she can get you all that extra information. And in your staff report too, there's additional information about eligibility requirements and matching. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Alicia. There's a couple of items next, the participation plan to adapt, and then also you could be the public comment period, and then Emily is here to give an update on that. Emily, please. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Chad. So the public participation plan is now out for public comment that can be found on our website, and this will return to TPB in December. The 2023 UPWP is also out for public comment and is on our website also, and will be brought to TPB in November. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Emily. Finally, we have a quarterly UPWP report that summarizes the tasks of staff at WAMPO. This is part of quarterly report that auditors have recommended us to do. Speaking of auditors, we'll be starting our work November, December to get ready for the next year report for the 2022 year audit as well. So with that, we have a economic development presentations today from High School and Gardner, and then we also have K96 project presentation from KDOT, and as well as safe system approach. That's something David and from FHWA and Haley from KDOT will be presenting. And then of course, TIP amendment is a only action item we have, and there's also consent agenda action item as well. So overall, we have 2 action items today. Right after this consent agenda item and then TIP amendment. With that, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chad. Any questions at all from Chad? I don't see any. We'll go on to the next item, and that's the consent agenda. Last month, we talked about the employees and operations manual and with revisions. Kelly went through those for us. You've all had an opportunity to review those. If there are no changes or recommendations, I'll move that we approve the consent agenda. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thanks, Kelly. Appreciate it. Next item is public comments. Is there anyone in the room or online that would like to speak during public comments? I don't see anything. We'll go on to new business. The first one is TIP amendment number 1, and actually Nick are going to brief that and be available for questions.
Thank you very much. The MTP is a long-range transportation plan that is developed every 5 years and looks out 20 years. So Reimagine Move 2040 was last completed in June of 2020, and that is the long-range plan that sets the vision for our area. And then the TIP is the 4-year implementation arm of the MTP. So projects need to be consistent, TIP projects need to be consistent with the MTP. The 2023 to 2026 TIP was approved in August, and we do amendments about quarterly in order to keep it up to date. And amendments are required when projects change by 25% or by $5 million, or there's other requirements as well, or if new projects are added into the TIP. The public comment period for this was September 3rd to October 2nd, and we did not receive any public comments. The TAC recommended approval of this amendment at their meeting, and now we're here today. You can see a lot more detail about this amendment in your packet, starting on page 48, if you'd like to see that. So this map shows the projects that are a part of this amendment. There are 14 projects. There are 5 new projects in red and 9 modified projects in blue. So I'll go over these projects fairly quickly, and then we can answer any questions if you have any. The first project is the North Andover Road project, and that had some cost increases that are being paid with local funds. There's a Garden Plain sidewalk project that is a new project that has KDOT allocated TA funds on it because Garden Plain is outside of our urbanized area, and so they were eligible for KDOT TA funding. The Hayesville and Wichita projects that are listed next both received increased funding to get up to the 80% for both of those projects based on what the project selection committee and the TPB decided last spring, and then again in August when we approved this TIP. Then we have a KDOT bridge replacement project that had cost increases and changes to phases and funding. We have a bunch more bridge projects. This bridge, one on US 54 is actually 2 projects, and it has cost increases and changes to funding. Then we have 3 new big bridge projects on I-235, US 54, and I-135. And then, of course, the North Junction project has some changes to their cost, phases, and funding. And then we have a new KDOT ITS project on US 54 and K96. And the US 54 East Kellogg Avenue in Sedgwick and Butler County had changes to the scope and funding. The Wichita Bicycle Master Plan update had changed the scope, so it's changing to be planning bike parking rather than implementing bike parking. And then the last one is a WAMPO project of MTP 2050 planning assistance, changing that funding source from CMAQ to STBG. So this amendment meets all of the requirements federally, and we had the public comment period. We did not have any comments, and it's consistent with the Reimagine Move 2040, and it is fiscally constrained. It added $20.1 million to the overall amount in the TIP. And so we have some action options for you. You can approve it as proposed, not approve it, or approve it with some specific changes. And TAC recommended approval as proposed. So I'm available to answer any questions, and so is Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? None?
I move to approve as presented.
We have a motion to approve and a second by Jack. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Again, I want to thank everyone who is involved in this. It's pretty big. Next item is a safe system approach. We have David LaRoche from Federal Highway and Haley Doherty from KDOT.
She hasn't yet. So let's switch it. Can you switch it?
We change them around. I beg your pardon. We get on the right page here. Okay, safe system approach. Nope. We're moving to K96. Okay, K96, Don Snyder from KDOT and Jacob Forster from WSP.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, board members. Don was unable to make it today, so I'm going to pinch it for him this morning or this afternoon. Appreciate the opportunity to come and talk about the K96 improvements project that's just getting underway as we get started on design. First, I'd like to take a minute to recognize all the project partners. A project of this size, there's lots of input and lots of partners. As I mentioned, this is a KDOT project, so KDOT is leading the way. City is obviously a very major stakeholder and a great partner as we go through. You can see a number of consulting firms that are part of the team. Just really wanted to highlight here, we are a local team. We're here in Wichita. A number of our project team lives and drives the corridor every day, so very much committed to the long-term success of the project. So just a brief overview of the project limits, kind of what we're doing on the project today. We're improving a very highly congested 8-mile stretch of 96 in the northeast part of town. See, it starts on the west side as it approaches I-135 interchange, the North Junction area, and extends to the east to about 13th Street. That first 7-ish miles, we're going to expand that to 6 lanes. That's going to end at about 21st Street. The section there from 21st to 13th, it's just going to be pavement replacement, replacing the 4 lanes as is. You can see there's a number of interchanges circled there in red at Woodlawn, Rock, and Webb. Those have been identified as full reconstruction interchanges. So really starting from scratch, looking at new geometrics, new bridge types, new bridge sizes to really handle the increased traffic flow that's out there today and projected to be out there in the future. And I would say, well, this is a freeway project. We're doing much more than just pavement and bridges. We're really looking at signal coordination along this entire area, really from Hillside to 127th and 21st up to 37th, really making sure that those signals operate most efficiently to really get the most benefit out of the transportation network as a whole in the area. And really looking at some innovative technology through the corridor, planning for what's coming as it relates to connected and autonomous vehicles as much as we can today. So why are we doing this? If you ever travel K96 in the morning or evening rush hours, you see this every day. These are daily backups at each of the ramps. You can see on the screen at the left, that's the westbound off-ramp at Oliver in the morning. Like I said, that's a daily morning occurrence. You can see that traffic is really backed up along the ramp. It impacts traffic on the main line. Same thing there with the eastbound off-ramp at Woodlawn. In the evenings, you can see cars are next to each other, really, again, impacting traffic and a safety concern there. Again, just more pictures here. This is at the eastbound off-ramp at Rock. You can see traffic backing up all the way down the main line along K96. This is probably the most striking picture here at Webb Road. This is the eastbound off-ramp. This is that tight loop ramp that comes down and then ties into Webb Road. This was taken a couple of weeks ago in the morning rush hour. As that signal stays red on Webb, traffic really backs up along that loop ramp. You can see it's backed up all the way across that bridge. Maybe a little hard to see, but there's a station wagon out there that decided to stop in the outside through lane, trying to get over into that exit lane. Because that was full, he couldn't, so he just decided to stop, and then everybody had to go around him, which obviously is a major safety concern. You can see in the bottom right, then that's the same camera looking the other direction, how far that traffic backs up along 96 every morning. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're dealing with. It's really what we're looking to improve as we go forward. So as we talk about the project benefits and really the proposed outcomes, really looking to increase that capacity by adding that third lane, so 6 lanes total, improvements to the interchanges. Well, we talked about those full reconstruction interchanges there at Woodlawn, Rock, and Webb. Also looking at doing some improvements there at the others, so Hillside, Oliver, 21st. What can we do within the existing footprint to make traffic flow more efficiently without wholesale changes there as well? And obviously with that increased capacity, congestion relief, that leads to enhanced safety along the corridor. A bit of a brief timeline update. We're in the midst of some of our early studies and review processes, really getting out and engaging in the community as well during this time as we get into the preliminary design. Ultimately, we're targeting starting construction early 2026. And that's contingent on a few things. First one is this is an IKE project with KDOT. That said, they do not have construction funding allocated just yet. As part of the program, they can only allocate that funding 2 years ahead of construction. So dependent on construction funding, and then we're looking to coordinate these projects with adjacent projects in the corridor. So the North Junction project that's slated to start here soon, and the East Kellogg project, again, it's slated to start early next year. We want to coordinate this K96 project with that project, with those projects, get those at least substantially complete before we start tearing up 96. We wouldn't want all of Northeast Wichita under construction at the same time. As a brief timeline, so where are we at in the process? We talked about those environmental reviews. We're going through that as we look at different alternatives, really going through that process to make sure that we're staying in line with all the regulatory agencies and such. Really in the midst of our traffic and safety study. So understanding the traffic patterns, where a car's coming from, where they're headed to, that helps us determine and really set the stage for what those interchange concepts are gonna look like and how we can handle that traffic most efficiently. And then again, understanding the safety, where the crashes occurring, what types, parsing through that data as we look at our concepts to really enhance the safety through the corridor. Again, we talked about that stakeholder engagement, really getting out into the community, getting their input, getting their feedback as we develop these concepts and understanding their concerns and what they'd like out of the project. We were at a few of the district advisory board meetings in the past month. We had a good meeting with some of the key stakeholders along the project early in September. So we're going to continue that process to get that feedback over the coming months. That all feeds into our concept design process, targeting a early 2023 open house where we're out to the public, showing them some of these potential concept designs, and again, getting the community's feedback. One thing I would note as we're looking at these concepts and the designs at the interchanges, we're looking at a holistic design. So it's not just cars that we're trying to get through here, taking into account pedestrians, bikes, public transit, really looking at all modes of travel to find the best solution for all users through the corridor. Like I said, stakeholder engagement is a big part of this. We've got a lot of ways that you can get involved and contact our design team. We do have a dedicated website. You can see the address up there. We've got phone numbers, emails that comes directly to us on the design team. We can respond to your comments if you have any. Social medias are up. So follow us on social. We've got announcements out as far as where we're at in the process. There's a couple really cool tools on our website that I'm really excited about. If you click on the Get Involved tab up at the top, takes you to the next page. You can sign up quarterly newsletters-ish for routine updates, put in your email. You can also click there in the middle, that orange tab that says Map Activity. It takes you to a really nice interactive tool where you can click on the left there and then pick up a pin. If you've got comments at specific locations along the corridor, select those, and then you can drop that down. So here we've dropped a pin at the Rock Road interchange, and you can add your comments. Lots of congestion, would like to see this. There is a place to add photos. Please be safe, don't do anything crazy and stop in the middle of traffic to take a picture. But drop that in there, drop your email, drop your name. We'll get that as a design team that comes to us, and we can interact with you to get more info on those comments. With that, I'll answer any questions there maybe.
Thank you. Any questions on? I think we're going to agree that this is a much needed project.
Thank you.
Next item, we're going to go to economic development out of Hayesville. Daniel, welcome.
Hi, my name is Danielle Gabor. I'm the Economic Development Director for the City of Hayesville. Oh, is that better? Sorry, I have a soft voice. My name is Danielle Gabor, and I'm the Economic Development Director for the City of Hayesville. And I am very happy to be here today to give you an economic development update for Hayesville. In this presentation, I'll cover a little bit about the history, demographics, and data, residential developments, quality of life, businesses, improvement plans, and infrastructure improvements for Hayesville. So first, I just want to go through a little bit about the history. William Wallace Hayes came to the area in 1870. Between then and the city's incorporation, the first school and first post office was built. And in 1891, about 161 acres of land was platted by Hayes to build the city of Hayesville. After that, the train depot was built. And in July 1951, the city of Hayesville was officially incorporated. So several years passed between the first school and the city's actual incorporation. So fun fact, if you look at a photo, and I don't know if you can see it well enough on the printout, but maybe up here. If you look at the photo of the school, Hayesville begins with H-A-Y-S. If you look at the photo of the train depot, it begins with H-A-Y-E. So this is because there was some confusion. Some people thought that we were named after the 19th president, which was Rutherford B. Hayes, whose spelling was H-A-Y-E-S, and was president from 1977 to 1881. So right around that time. And sorry, 1877 to 1881. Luckily, this was cleared up and we are appropriately spelled after the founder, William Wallace. So the population at the time of the 2020 census was 11,262. The 2022 valuation is about 70.5 million. And the mill levy for 2021 is 45.448. The current land area in square miles is 4.74, and there are about 23.5 square miles in our area of influence. I do have 3 graphs that include population growth. So as you can see, we are steadily increasing in population. And the city valuation for the last 3 years and the mill levy for the last 3 years. Sales tax is 8.5% currently, and we do have a 10-year 1% city sales tax that was approved in April 2014 and is effective through July 2024. It's used for streets, parks, and recreation improvements. And the sales revenue for 2021 is about 1.2 million. Median household income is close to 55,000. And the median home ownership value is about 110,000. So we do have a few current housing developments where homes are being built. One is Country Lakes, it's in Southwest Hayesville, and I've got 2 photos on the right-hand side of that. And River Forest, which is in North Hayesville. And these are the photos that are in the bottom left-hand corner. And then we also have Timber Creek. Timber Creek was a part of the Hayesville Land Bank, so we were selling those lots. The last lot closed in May 2022, and we sold those for between $7,500 and $40,000 per lot. Our most recent past incentives for residential areas in Hayesville was the Wood Tree Farm. We were giving away trees for owners who were building new homes, and 10-year graduated tax rebate on the city portion of the property taxes for new home builds. That program ran from 2015 through 2018, and the last year the rebate will be administered is 2028. We do have a few upcoming residential developments, such as Coppertail. It is in about center of Hayesville along Grand, and it'll have duplexes and quadplexes. And it'll be about 100 individual units that'll be built in 3 phases. We also will have new commercial construction directly along Grand. Completion is estimated at the end of 2026, and we do have a 5-year graduated rebate of the city's portion of the property taxes that will begin after phase 1 is complete. The next one I wanted to mention is Wheatland Village. It was recently annexed into the city. The zone change request to residential actually goes to council this evening. It is in West Hayesville along Meridian, and the plan is for both single family, about 96 homes, and duplexes, about 49 units, so about 194 total homes. And construction is anticipated to start April 2023. Hayesville also has a land bank in Southwest Hayesville off of 79th and a little south of Meridian. It is a little over 77 acres and should accommodate about 150 homes. And those will be single family residential. In the future, the city will partner with a developer for that property. And then we also have other future developments in discussion. So what brings people to Hayesville? So we have a survey that we ask residents to complete when they open up a new water account. And we only have a few questions on that survey. But one of the questions is, why are you moving in or staying in Hayesville? The top two reasons we always see is family and community. So these two variables are always very close. Sometimes family is higher, sometimes community is. Next, we have the school district and work. And likewise, these two are very close. And then the final category is usually other. And most people leave that blank, but if they do fill something out, it's usually that they did find a house in Hayesville that they liked. I've also included a graph and it shows if they purchased a house or are renting. Keep in mind, this is for new residents that moved into the community in 2022 only, not all of the population. But I did want to include it just because I thought it was interesting that 46% were coming in for rentals. So I also wanted to include the overall residential ownership in Hayesville. As you can see, even though Wichita's rate of home ownership is at 58%, and the US average is at 64.4%, and this is all based on the 2020 census. Hayesville is comparable to other cities surrounding Wichita, with 73.9% of our residents owning their homes. So the following few slides will be on the quality of life. Quality of life and economic development really do go hand in hand. They both improve the other, making the community a more attractive place to live, bringing in additional residents that bring in growth, other businesses, and add to the tax base. Our survey data shows, as I mentioned, that family and community are our drivers for new residents. Therefore, quality of life is an aspect in Hayesville's economic development and growth. So I'll go through the parks and recreation, senior center, events, schools, and historic district. So Hayesville does have 13 parks within the city. We also have a wonderful parks division that maintains and works to improve our parks consistently. Many of our parks have playgrounds. For example, we have a new playground at Country Lakes that just had its ribbon cutting. And some have hike and bike paths. We have about 12.89 miles of hike and bike paths within the city. And some have ponds, fishing, free city Wi-Fi, and shelters, including the new covered shelter with power outlets at Dorner Park. And residents can also now reserve park spaces online. We also have our new sand volleyball and pickleball courts, and these now have lights that residents can turn on in the evening. And it's shown on the flip photo there in the upper right-hand corner. Also within our parks, we have baseball and softball fields, disc golf, and skate park, dog park, and a pool. We're also installing permanent cornhole games at the park just south of the activity center. We also have 2 veterans memorials, one in Historic Park and one in Riggs, and the Angel of Hope Memorial. It's a place of remembrance for all those who've lost a child, and it's in Dorner Park. It was actually the first one in Kansas and may actually still be the only one in Kansas right now. We also have the Hayesville Activity Center, which is a state-of-the-art recreation center with a full calendar of programs, classes, and events, most at little or no cost to residents. And it currently has about 1,400 members. Hayesville's also been recognized as a Tree City recipient through the Arbor Day Foundation for 20 consecutive years. We also have some great community events. Our events are another reason, in my opinion, that the Hayesville community and family is what brings and keeps residents in Hayesville. As an example, we have a few rock and walk run events throughout the year. Party in the 060 that's in April. Summer park performances, 4th of July celebrations, several parades throughout the year, fall festival, and trick or treat on Main Street, which are both this month. And we now have 2 yard decorating contests, one for Halloween, and one for Christmas. And then we also have Village Christmas. Again, these are just a few of the events that we have. I do recommend you check out the events on the Hayesville website and invite you all to come and enjoy one or more of the events. We also have a very active senior center. An addition was added on the east side and the kitchen was updated recently. The addition added a game room, additional storage for the food bank that we have, and an additional restroom, and allowed expansion of exercise classes because of the extra space. They have a full calendar of programs and one of the largest Meals on Wheels within the surrounding communities with 50 recipients. And they give out commodities through the Emergency Food Assistance Program. We do also have a Hayesville Hustle, which is a bus that provides low-cost curb-to-curb transportation. It began in 2020 and is partially funded by Section 5310, federal grant distributed by Wichita Transit for enhanced mobilities of seniors and individuals with disabilities. Since opening, they've given almost 5,000 rides and traveled over 19,000 miles. We also have a historic district within the city. It has the marketplace, and we have several events there, such as the farmer's market and a blacksmith shop that is actually a working blacksmith shop. It houses Central States metal artisans. And if you want to check it out in action, you can actually YouTube it under Forged in Fire, winner Lee Crawford. He won the Navy branch battle and worked it out of the Hayesville shop. You can also go to the shop during operating hours for a free demonstration. And then the whole historic district also has the Wire House, the gazebo, which also has an amphitheater and they have events there. The community library, a veterans memorial, a bank, which is the office of the Hayesville Chamber of Commerce, and a community building. And not a part of the historic district, but a historical site in Hayesville is the Vickers Petroleum Station in Pride Park. And it is close to historic district, and it's the economic development office for the city, so my office. It was the first Vickers Batwing gas station in the US. It was built in 1954. And it is on the historic registry, and it brings in tourism from both the around the city and then also out of state. The last slide on quality of life is the school district. USD 261 has 6 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, a high school, specialty high school, education center, and an early childhood program. They've received 3 blue ribbons at the following schools: Campus, which is Campus High School, Oakville, and Ruth Clark Elementary. We also have a school-based health clinic, and this is in partnership with KU, and it serves as a primary care clinic for students and staff. In the high school, you'll also find Stomping Grounds Coffee Shop, Valley State Bank, and a t-shirt shop. All of these businesses employ students and help to teach them valuable job skills. WSU and WSU Tech classes are also given at the high school to get a head start on college credits or on job readiness after graduation. Next, I'd like to talk a little bit about businesses. Some of our past business incentives are selling city-owned land at very reasonable prices and graduated tax rebates of the city's portion of the ad valorem property tax. Our current incentives are a coffee house incentive and a steakhouse family dining incentive. And then future incentives are being worked on as well. Currently, we do have 215 businesses in Hayesville. So I would like to share about a couple of our businesses that are currently in Hayesville. One is Wentworth Manufacturing. They sew or bond using a variety of materials, premium industrial textile products. They do custom design projects and engineering services, and 65% of their business comes from government contracts. And then the remaining business comes from commercial and industrial customers. And they have approximately 200 employees. We also have Diversicare of Kansas. They provide short-term rehabilitation, long-term medical, hospice, assisted living, and memory care. And they have approximately 80 employees. We also have 2 hotels, both located off of I-35, Sleep-In Suites and Hayesville Express Inn, and 3 industrial parks, also great locations off of I-35. And we do still have some land available, so there is some room for growth there. And those can be found on Lois or Location 1, and those are on the business development page. Some of our future businesses in Hayesville include Midwest Health, Assisted Living, and Memory Care. They will be located in North Hayesville as a part of the River Forest subdivision. Construction is anticipated to be from 2022 to 2024. And once opened, they'll have 45 to 50 healthcare positions available. The Kansas statewide housing assessment validated the need for senior care living communities and to free up middle income housing needs. So we are delighted that they chose Hayesville. We did offer a few incentives to them as well. The land was sold very reasonably as part of the Hayesville Land Bank, and the city is covering some infrastructure. Another one is Coppertail, which is at the top of the photo in the slide. And I had mentioned this one before in the previous slide because it has residential area on most of the land in the back of it, but the front of it along Grand will be a strip of retail and office space. And then another future business is Beauties and Beasts, which just purchased a building on Broadway. This location will be an upscale adoption center. And the lower photo shows a picture of that building. Community outreach is very important to them, and they have already collaborated with our senior center to provide dog food to families in need. And then they also have many other ideas, so we're really excited for them to be in the community. And their final zoning change request is also tonight at City Council meeting. So next we'll discuss improvement plans, and then I'll conclude by discussing infrastructure improvements. So we do have a Parks Master Plan. However, I've already covered much of those improvements in earlier slides. So I'll move into the South Broadway Corridor Plan. It is a long-range vision plan with 3 key areas in it. The first is road and intersection with widening and adding turn lanes. And to date, we've completed the 79th Street intersection. The second is adding sidewalks. We're working on getting grant funding for that. And we're resubmitting for KDOT cost share funding soon. And the final plan is to add a sidewalk from the Mitch Mitchell floodway to Berlin Street. And I have on the photo on the slide indicating the beginning and the ending of that sidewalk. So it's quite long. And then that last area is land use and development standards. We also have a South Meridian Corridor Plan with 3 main focuses. The first is sidewalk improvements. We've added a sidewalk on the west side of the street from Grand to Country Lakes Edition, which is on the south side of Grand. Added a sidewalk on the north side from Grand to Hayesville West Middle School, which is the north side of Grand. And we're in the design process of adding a sidewalk on the east side of the street from Grand to Chelsea, which is south of Grand. And then finally, we completed the Tim Norton pedestrian bridge, which is a 907-foot long bridge and is shown in the photo on the slide. It's over the floodway on Meridian with the closest intersection of Meridian and 63rd. The county paid 20% of the construction costs, and then the city paid 20% of the county's construction, so 4% of the total construction cost, and then WAMPO distributed the remaining 80% with federal funds. The second focus is land use, which we're currently working on residential development off of Meridian, just south of Grand that I had mentioned earlier. And the photo of the land is in the upper right-hand corner. And the last item was road widening. And we did do turn lanes and lighting improvements to 55th and Meridian intersection for safety. The last plan is the bike and pedestrian master plan. And again, many of the items I've already addressed in other plans. But for the items that weren't, we completed wayfinding signs and bicycle parking, and we continue working on other bike and pedestrian paths. So the final two slides are on infrastructure. The repaving of North Main Street was completed in summer of 2021. It went from Grand Avenue to the Mitch Mitchell floodway bridge, and funding for this was an 80-20 split, with KDOT for the construction and Hayesville paid the design and administrative costs. It also added road reconstruction, included road reconstruction, sidewalk improvements, and the addition of a flashing crosswalk. Several antique light fixtures were also converted to LED within the city. LED converts nearly 100% of its energy to light and lasts almost 100,000 hours. So it was a good economic switch. And we made some recent upgrades to manholes, wastewater lines, and sewer lines. The sewer lines actually increased the life by 75 to 100 years. And we're currently working on water meter upgrades as well. The water meters are being converted to an AMI system. So once it's finished, residents will be able to see their water usage even by the hour online. And then we also anticipate starting water main upgrades next year, which will be 100% funded by ARPA funds. And then the final project I'd like to tell you about is the Sunset Fields project, which was completed in March 2022. This was in a residential area east of Seneca and north of the Big Ditch. The photo of the area is on the slide there. And it previously had dirt roads and some drainage issues. The project was done in 4 phases that included pavement, stormwater infrastructure, curb and gutter, and driveways. And this was funded by the CDBG grant from the Kansas Department of Commerce and by the City of Hayesville. And property owners did not incur any special taxes on that. So I do want to thank you for the opportunity to present today. I've also included the city's main and business development websites. Do you have any feedback or questions for me?
Thank you, Danielle. Does anyone have any questions about what's happening in Hayesville? We call it providing quality life, which is important to attract businesses and economic development. So we appreciate what you're doing. And WAMPO is pleased to be a partner with some of the projects that we have going in that area.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go back to item B on the safe systems approach. And we now have David Roach, Federal Highway, and his orders from KDOT and briefing on the safe systems approach.
While we have this break and pause, there's a comment that says, can all make sure that they talk into your mics? It's not picking up everybody's voice when you talk.
You can use the arrows or the
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm David LaRoche with the Federal Highway Administration, the safety traffic engineer. And today I'm going to talk to you about the SAFE system. To appreciate WAMPO's interest in advancing safety in the metro area. And first, let me talk about what safe system is not. It's not a slogan and it's not a program. It's an approach, and which I hopefully will adequately describe for you. FHWA has been incorporating safe system in many of our safety programs and guidance. Every day, people are killed and serious injured in crashes. Crashes irreversibly change human lives, but death and serious injury should not be consequence of simply using our roadway system. Every year, over 1 million people are killed globally in crashes. Over 100 people die daily in crashes in the United States. And then most concerning is pedestrian crashes are high and rising. So imagine in the coming decades, not a single person in the United States died in a traffic crash. In order to think about safety in this way, we require a paradigm shift. Rather than accepting fatalities and serious injuries as a consequence of using a roadway, the safe system has an ethical imperative that no one should be killed or injured for simply using the roadway. The safe system approach aims to eliminate fatal and serious injuries for all road users by accommodating human mistakes and keeping impacts on human bodies at tolerable level. This is the fundamental objective of the safe system. In the road injury epidemiology, kinetic energy is the pathogen we want to treat. This graphic is an overview of the safe system approach. There's 3 elements to understand. These are the safe system approach, principles, and elements. The 6 safe system principles shown around the outer ring are the graphic are the fundamental beliefs. The 5 safe system elements in the middle ring are the conduits through which a safe system approach is implemented. The hub is the focus of the safe system, that is to reduce serious injuries through design that accommodates human mistakes and tolerances and injury tolerances. The 6 safe system principles are the fundamental beliefs that establish the goal of the safe system approach, acknowledge human limitation, and set expectations on how to act. The first principle is that death and serious injury is unacceptable. While no crash are desirable, the safe system prioritizes crashes that result in death and serious injury, since no one should experience either while using our roadways. The next principle is that humans make mistakes, and these mistakes may result in crashes. The next principle is that humans are vulnerable. People have a limited ability to tolerate crash impacts before death and injury. Human tolerances to crash impacts is central to the safe system approach. It's that kinetic energy problem that we have. The next principle is that responsibility is shared among system managers, vehicle manufacturers, law enforcement, post-crash personnel, and system users. The next is that safety is proactive. Agencies should use proactive tools to identify and mitigate latent risk in the roadway system. The process, known as a systemic approach to safety, uses crash history, roadway design, and other data to identify patterns in geometric design that may lead to crashes. And the final principle is redundancy is critical. Because the five elements is safe road users. Let me see, the five safe system elements are conduits through which a safe system approach is implemented. And first element is safe road users. The safety of all road users is addressed no matter what mode is used. All road users are considered equal. Each road user has a responsibility to operate to the best of their ability. Education and enforcement can help modulate user behavior. The next element is safe vehicles. Safe vehicles include active safety measures to help prevent crashes from occurrence, such as autonomous emergency braking, and passive safety measures such as seat belts and airbags. As we move into the future, leveraging connected and automated vehicle technology will improve safety. The next element is safe speed. As the quote indicates here, there is a direct linkage between safe speeds and our ability to survive a crash. And the next element is safe roads. Safe roads are designed and operate to prevent crashes and keep impacts on human body at tolerable levels. There's a pretty big correlation between safe roads and safe speeds. If we generally design our roads well, people will drive them accordingly. And a roundabout is probably one of the best examples where people will generally slow down on entry due to deflection. And then even if there is a crash, the impact angles are so mild that that doesn't result in any injuries. And then the final element is post-crash care. We rely on emergency first responders to quickly locate, stabilize, and transport injured to the medical facilities. It includes quick response and investigation by police and road managers. Traffic incidents are cleared quickly. The justice system can take appropriate action, and the risk of future crashes can be mitigated. And then this graphic shows us how the elements of the safe system work together, such that if one part fails, there are redundant systems in place. The Swiss cheese model shown here helps demonstrate this redundancy. Failure only results when all the holes representing weakness momentarily align, which is what we want to help avoid. And then implementing the safe system approach requires moving away from several traditional paradigms. In addition to rather than trying to prevent crashes, the safe system approach seeks to prevent death and serious injury. In addition to trying to improve human behavior, the safe system approach designs for human mistakes and limitations. And while the traditional safety approach focuses on controlling speed, the safe system approach attempts to reduce system kinetic energy. Rather than asserting that only individuals are responsible, the safe system approach aims to share responsibility among system users, managers, and others. And instead of reacting based on crash history, the safe system proactively identifies and addresses risk. And as we move forward to zero deaths, the safe system hopefully will get us there. And you know, it's a long ways to go, but you know, I'd like to say how you eat an elephant is this one bite at a time. You have to start somewhere and move forward. And that's about what I have for now. And Haley will take over and she'll talk about some of the KDOT therapeutics for.
Thank you. I'm Haley Doherty. I represent the Bureau of Transportation Safety with KDOT. So what I'm going to talk about here is just those some elements that Dave went over, but more specific about what KDOT is doing to approach each one of these systems. And then our hope over the next year, starting the beginning of 2023, is to present more in depth on each one of these at your guys' meetings. So I presented to the TAC a couple weeks ago, and we will also be doing the same presentation for you guys, but to keep you updated on what KDOT is doing in each one of these different elements and how we're progressing, and maybe some challenges or some successes that we've seen from those. So as David mentioned, we're looking at the 5 elements here, and KDOT does have several plans that overlap with each one of these. We do have what's the Highway Safety Improvement Program. We've got the Highway Safety Plan and the Strategic Highway Safety Plan as well. And all 3 of those have overlapping elements of engineering and design, as well as behavior and educational efforts. So the first one I'll talk about today is the safe road users, and this is primarily going to be our behavioral focus. We do have a more robust list in that highway safety plan that I mentioned, but these are just a few things that I wanted to highlight for education and enforcement efforts. The highway safety plan encompasses several of our emphasis area teams, which are broken out teams, part of our executive safety council that our bureau is responsible for. And some of those emphasis area teams related to safe road users is we have a focus on older and teen drivers, impaired driving, occupant protection, and also pedestrian and cyclist safety. And each of these groups, what's important about them is they represent that each of those categories have a heightened sense of vulnerability and also risk. So we might say, you know, opposite of teen drivers versus older drivers, is teen drivers might likely take more risks. And so you have a different target audience for that, as opposed to older drivers that maybe have a higher sense of vulnerability when they're driving or acting as pedestrians or cyclists. And the next one here that we have is the Car Fit program, and it is a program that focuses on the older driver population, and it helps provide an understanding of your vehicle and how you work with your vehicle. What are different assisting features within your vehicle, and also kind of just helping drivers feel more comfortable around the vehicle that they own. And I think I think something we take for granted is driving vehicles. You have several thousand tons of something that you are maneuvering around every day. And so to understand how to properly operate that and what the risks might be associated with it. The SAFE program, or the Seatbelts Are for Everyone, is a teen peer-to-peer program. It is something that is overseen by the Traffic Safety Resource Office. We currently have 83 schools that participate among 44 counties. So this is something that is led by teens to encourage their fellow classmates to wear their seatbelts. The next one I have on there is the ICA Driver Education Reimbursement Grant Program. And this is one that it is reimbursement program, but it works to provide driver's education to those that might not necessarily have access to it. It is estimated this year, the school year, that we'll have over 2,000 young adults benefiting from this program, and will reimburse over $350,000 with that program. This is also ran through the Department of Revenue and the Department of Education. The next one there is Drive Safe Sedgwick, which is, if you have or have not heard of this program, it is fairly new. It launched in, I believe, July or August of this summer, and it's a strategic media campaign that is focused on the greater Sedgwick County area and part of KDOT District 5. And then finally, over the last few months, we've started posting weekend driving messages on our message boards. So a lot of these are themed and can correlate with some of the national messaging systems that we have going. But they will focus on themes like occupant protection, speed, impaired driving, and distracted driving. Some of the favorite campaign quotes that I've heard so far are drive fast, die hard, avoid the booze when you cruise, and seatbelts look good on you. So this is something, again, that is a newer effort, but something that we can cover statewide with our messaging boards. The next topic on here is safe vehicles. And I will preface this by saying within KDOT, we don't have a whole lot of impact on this, but we are doing what we can to work with the connected vehicle systems. So a lot of the guidance I think that we'll see come from the safe vehicles will come from NHTSA, or that'll be the guidance, but then also the vehicle manufacturers will be responsible for a lot of what goes into this element. But one thing that we are doing with KDOT is we have a connected automated vehicle task force that is seeking to improve the freight safety and efficiency, as well as spur economic development and provide equitable CAV access to reduce the roadway fatalities by increasing traveler access to weather and first responder information. One example includes a pavement marking pilot program that experimented with the striping lengths and how they communicate with connected vehicles. So that is something that we have tried. And another project that is notable is US 83 corridor that was recently announced. It's 100 miles of fiber optic cable and advanced technologies that will help deliver traffic, weather, and other operational information to commercial trucking to optimize the freight routing along that. Other benefits also include reduction in congestion and increased safety for the highway users, and improve economic opportunities for low income communities. I did mention before that I think NHTSA will have a big part in the safe vehicles, and that includes spreading more messaging for vehicle recalls and those sort of things. But the guidance on that I don't think is finalized quite yet. A lot of the safe vehicle aspects will probably be handled with KDOR because they handle all the vehicle licensing in the state. So there's something that's separate from us. So while we are still discovering our part in this, we're trying to do as best as we can and learn, I think, about these newer programs and these newer vehicles and what their capabilities are. Safe speeds is another one. The first one on there is the safety corridors, and that's actually a meeting I just got back from prior to this and why I was late. So thank you all for pushing us back. But the Executive Safety Council had a big push that was establishing safety corridors. So by examining some crash data and speed citation data, we selected 4 corridors among the state that we will not only pair education and enforcement efforts to slow down drivers, but also incorporate some low-cost engineering solutions. So the one in your guys' area we're looking at is I-135 north of Wichita here. The primary extent of that we're talking right now is basically the Park City to Newton area. But that will look like I said, added enforcement on those corridors, but also some focused educational efforts. But we did get some feedback from the emergency response teams and the local law enforcement there as well to see what are we seeing that's not in the crash data. So I think that I was really enlightened by that meeting that we just had to get the feedback of what we as drivers feel and experience when you're driving, and then how we can make some slight changes to just improve how people are thinking when they're driving those heavily traveled corridors. The next one on there is called third-party data. So we can use data from third-party vendors such as speed or harsh braking data to analyze systemic improvements and evaluate whether the speed corridors will affect driver behavior. We currently have an ongoing pilot study that might allow us some access to those certain data points to see how we can analyze and improve. The third piece on there is target speeds versus the 85th percentile. So the METCD standard has typically used the 85th percentile, which is 85% of your vehicle traffic is traveling comfortably at a speed. And so typically target, setting speed limits is typically based on that. So whether it be plus or minus 5 or whatever, you base it off of that rather than maybe the design speed. So we are looking for some new guidance from Federal Highway, hopefully soon, on using some target speeds rather than leaving it to the driver discretion, I guess you could say. The last thing on there is speed management action plan is something that KDOT has developed over the last year or so. And actually we've kind of, it was a plan that we developed that kind of we didn't do a whole lot with. And so just recently we are diving back into it to see how we can actually pull out some actionable items from that. So a few things that we've come up with too is in April, we host the Transportation Safety Conference. So we've highlighted some speakers to target on speed, crashes, and then also the survival. I mean, David had mentioned the understanding the kinetic force that is involved in a crash and knowing that humans are vulnerable to that. So how can we take that in consideration when we're setting speeds on our highways? The other things are to teach and promote safety culture and to focus on speed as a topic for a breakout session during that conference. The other thing that'll come out of that is basically once we get the guidance for speed setting is to reevaluate our policies within KDOT and what our standards are when we do design and set speed limits. Next topic on here is safe roads. So the first thing I want to highlight on there is our Highway Safety Improvement Program, which is federal funding that is spending allowable on the local and state system, but also spot and systemic treatments. So spot treatments being maybe we have a problematic intersection where we have a high crash frequency, and then systemic is something that we can identify what is a high risk feature to a roadway that we can improve statewide and improve our roadways that way. So that would be something where we know that having shoulders on the roadway increase the safety of our drivers, not only if they do depart the roadway, but saying you have an emergency, you need to pull over, something like that. So that is something we're looking at statewide, that we set a higher standard for our minimum across the state to make sure all roadways have that shoulder width. Or rumble strips is a great example of something that is actually more systematic, where we will install those wherever we possibly can. Let's see, a couple things on there. Also with the HSIP that I wanted to highlight, we do have a program, it's HRRR, which is our High Risk Rural Roads program. And I wanted to point out that through that funding, we have implemented the local road safety plan. So nearly every county in Kansas, I think all but 2, have at least signed up for or received planning for a local road safety plan. And so this is going down to the major collector level of identifying what roadway network they have within the county and identifying what countermeasures they can implement along those roadways to make them safer. Excuse me. An additional resource that is kind of connected with the local road safety plans is also LTAP, which is our technical assistance program, or transportation assistance program through KU. So they also help us quite a bit with that. The next one on there, I'm not sure if it was talked about at all today, but the SS4A, the Safe Roads and Streets for All, that was a US DOT grant program that was released this year. And we created the Match Pilot Program, which was supporting local entities for applying. KDOT was not allowed to apply for this. So it was only focused towards MPOs, counties, cities, that sort of thing. And so KDOT did put up a guaranteed 10% of the project cost up to the 20% local match that was required. And so we did get at least 10 applications across the state that included individual and joint efforts. So we had some that were just individual entities and some that jointly applied with others. Depending on how you applied, you got an extra 5% or so added to the support that KDOT was going to apply. So if all of these applications are awarded, that safety planning could impact the communities of nearly 325,000 Kansans. So I think that's pretty notable, and we're excited to hear the announcement of that. Hopefully come, I think, January. And that safety action planning also leads to availability for implementation funding as well after that. So you do the planning first, identify, just like those local road safety plans, you identify those locations where you have high risk, and then identify what countermeasures you would like to apply for that. And then there is implementation funding after that available, whether that be through SS4A or through HSIP through KDOT. So there's a couple of different avenues that local entities can apply for that. We have a couple other state system safety funding programs that include our Clear Zone program. We have the Strategic Safety Improvement Program. We have just our safety program as well. And then we also have one that is Preservation Plus, which is responsible mostly for like the rumble strips that are installed throughout the state. And then other systemic programs that we're working on are ones for horizontal curves. We're also looking at a bypass lane program, which, identifying bypass lanes as being not only confusing for drivers and law enforcement, but basically identifying whether it is a turn lane, right or left turn lane. So the first step of that is identifying all those locations across the state that we have, and then coming up with a process of either eliminating those lanes or converting them to a left or right turn lane. So those are a couple of systemic programs that we're looking at right now in developing. The last item that I have here is the post-crash care. So the first one on there is the Traffic Records Coordinating Committee, or the TRCC. They are currently discussing a program called Biospatial, which is a web-based EMS data platform that is designed to link the crash reports with the trauma registries. I sat in on a demo of that a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it was very interesting to be able to connect the links between what law enforcement reports in their crashes and how it actually turns out with the trauma registries. And this requires a lot of coordination between KDOT, KDHE, the Vitalist Health, and a couple other groups as well. Post-crash care is especially prevalent an issue in rural Kansas, where we have travel times to hospitals may be longer than expected. And so the second one that I've listed on there is KTRAN, which is our Kansas Transportation Research and New Development Program. We submitted a project to that to do research on what is called the golden hour. So essentially the idea of the golden hour is once you have a crash, identify that, have first responders respond to the crash scene and get them to a medical facility in a timely manner to where that does not result in a fatality or even a serious injury. So we hopefully will be able to identify those locations in the state where we lack that timeliness and how we can improve that across the state. That research will also help identify where our critical care facilities are, helipad facilities, and also the fire and EMS stations, and help identify best practices to improve that post-crash care. We also are using the safety corridors as an opportunity to coordinate with EMS. I did mention that before, that we did have representatives from the EMS for this. We had Park City and Newton there as well, but we got some pretty good feedback as far as when they are responding to a crash, what slows them down, and is it something that we can help improve as KDOT. So I thought that was all really good coordination. Then the last thing I wanted to say here was that the strategic highway safety plan that KDOT has not historically emphasized this E. You know, we talk about the 4 E's, the engineering, the education, the enforcement, and the emergency medical services. It hasn't historically emphasized this, and it's required a lot of external coordination. So KDOT is still looking to grow and improve in this area, but I am excited for I mentioned to Chase here on our way down here that the idea of the safe system, I think, is really heightening that teamwork idea, that we have a lot of different parties that are involved in each one of these systems to make it a well-oiled machine, I guess you could say. So this teamwork idea to coordinate, you know, we might be making those ultimate decisions on what policy changes and things are happening, but we are getting that input from everybody else that is involved, and the educational efforts as well is how we can spread the word and get people informed. So that's all I have here. There's my contact information if you guys want, and I'm sure David and I will be able to answer any questions that you have. So thank you.
Well, thank you, David and Haley. I appreciate it. Do we have any questions from anyone in the audience?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, David and Haley. It's very important. Safety has been an important topic. Last year, our chair and many committee members also voiced the opinion that we need to take care of our transportation system. So we have a RFP sent out, and we are in the process of selecting a consulting firm. With the board voting in December, we'll be starting this study, identifying, the countermeasures and all these aspects that you mentioned. Eric Backlund is also here from FHWA. He also emphasized how safety is important. Many of the funding is geared towards safety. And then if your projects are aligned to, making it more safer, WAMPO staff is willing to work once the project starts in December. So just want to coordinate with all, invite David and Haley and everyone to work with WAMPO staff towards this goal. And these are state-of-the-art approaches on safety that David and Haley mentioned. And this also makes the the educational awareness. And thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, if I could just add just a few comments. Thank you to you both. And I do serve on the Executive Safety Committee, which really has been totally redone in the last 2 years, revamped. It's gone from, frankly, having things presented to it and then approved or frankly rubber stamped to actually getting into the weeds and talking about all of this. I know that our presentation was kind of ethereal on safety system approach. That's sort of the vision of where we want to get to. As Haley talked about, we're starting our approaches to get into how we get there. And that's what you're hearing a lot of. And a whole nother area that we spent a lot of time talking about is reducing rural roadway departures. We still have statistics in rural areas of folks not wearing seatbelts. It's high, so that's going to be another key area. And The funding and programs, Safe Streets for All, that closed on September 15th. That's the first round. We're hopeful we get grants for that. But a big part of this is just, looking at opportunities where this can be further injected in. So, we're happy to see the progress that's happening with the ESC and with these initiatives. And there's a lot more to come. We're really just getting started. So just some input.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to thank both Federal and KDOT for partnering with the safety initiatives. Prior to my retirement from the Air Force, I was Chief of Safety of the largest tanker wing and missile wing in the Air Force. So safety is very high priority. The different items that you're looking at, we did the same thing in the Air Force. When we looked at an accident, we tried to find out, there was always a chain of events that led to that accident. And if you break one link in that chain of events, you prevent the accident. And you're doing the same thing with looking at your different areas of roads and speeds and so forth. If you break any of those, you prevent the accident. Just here in this area, within the last week, we've had a number of fatal accidents just in Sedgwick County. And every single accident, whether it's fatal or not, affects a lot of people, not just those that are involved in the accident, but also the families and everyone else that's involved. We just lost a deputy sheriff last Friday night in a fatal accident. So at this point, we don't know exactly what happened. There are investigations going on by the Kansas Highway Patrol. They've taken over the investigations. Our Public Works will do an investigation of that intersection, do forensic analysis of the vehicle so that we know exactly what speeds were happening at that time, what time that they hit the brakes, who hit the brakes, and so forth. That kind of gives us an idea, but then it goes into how do we look at those roads to make sure that they're safe and that the speeds are safe and so forth. So this is critical. We have to reduce the number of accidents in this area. And again, it doesn't matter if it's a fatal accident or not. Every single one impacts a number of people, not just those involved in the accident. So I really want to commend KDOT and Federal Highway Administration for their efforts in helping us with this. Thank you very much. Hey, next up, we're going to go back to economic development. We have Goddard on. Mike, welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to be back. Oh, thank you. So you can be able to scroll. Hey, Ashley or somebody, I'm gonna need some help with this so that it goes back because it's not gonna let me engage with it. Perfect. Alrighty. Thanks, everybody. Honorable Chair and board members. My name is Mike Escaga. I'm the Community Development Director for City of Goddard. Instead of giving you a bunch of stats, I'm going to go into economic theory. And since you guys can't leave the room, you're going to be stuck here with me. But it'll impact all of you, so hopefully it'll be engaging. If you do have any questions, feel free to ask me afterwards. But I'm going to go about talking about Goddard and West Wichita. So Goddard and West Wichita has been experiencing a lot of growth recently. Some of the data you're going to be looking at right now has to do with annual daily traffic counts. And as you can see, as it populates, that this has to do with looking at average counts over a year, 1 year period, and where is it concentrated. And so if you take this information and you just put it into a more concentrated and pronounced symbology, that's kind of what it looks like. And then if you convert it into a heat bloom, that's what it looks like. And then if you do what's called interpolation, which is basically you take that data and you guess at what the future looks like for that data, then that's kind of what it looks like. And so as you can see, there's a high concentration of both downtown Wichita, and it just flows out. Goddard is kind of considered the gateway to West Wichita. And so you can see that that's going to continue well into the future. And if you were looking at that in relation to building permits, so this is only single family detached building permits. This would be 2013, 2014. This is what it looks like in 2013, 2014. This is what it looks like currently. So as you can see that growth is concentrated, it's continued to expand west. And that does not just take into account for single family, but it's also going to take into account for twin homes, duplexes, and multifamilies. So this is what it looks like 2013, 2014 for two family, multifamily, et cetera. And this is what it looks like currently. So as you can see, that growth is trending along with the single family detached. And so the big question obviously is, what's driving all this? What's driving it for West Wichita? What's driving it for Goddard? You know, how does it relate to both Hayesville and other cities around the area? And so we're going to go into some of those theories. So it's hard for people to conceptualize this, but your house is predicated on supply and demand, just like your t-shirts, just like your produce. And for people, that's hard to think about, that your house is so static that way, that it's going to be based on supply and demand, just like any other market. If that demand is greater than what's supplied, that price goes up. Likewise, if the supply is constrained and the demand is consistent, then the price goes up, just like housing. So what you're seeing is that price movement is affecting a demand for both existing housing, but also rental demand. So some of the factors of rental demand based on a home unit, which is a real estate analytic firm: job growth, migration, household formation, elevated home prices, and lifestyle preferences. So obviously there's a key focus there on job growth, migration, and the elevated home prices. So let's talk about a little bit about baby boomers. Obviously, this comes up a lot, so we'll continue to talk about it. The first baby boomer was eligible for retirement in 2011. That means that by 2031, all baby boomers will be eligible for retirement. So that exodus of baby boomers from the job market creates this influx of demand at the higher levels, the higher echelons of every job sector across the US. And so what you see is the cohorts begin to fill that in. So the baby boomers retire, Gen X follows them. Gen X vacates their jobs to fill the baby boomer jobs. The millennials fill Gen X jobs. And then the Gen Z follows the millennials. And then if anyone can guess what the next generation is, I'm open to it. Alpha generation. There you go. I'll fill it for you. Alpha generation is going to follow Gen Z, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And these cohorts continue to stack on one another as baby boomers tend to leave the job market. But when baby boomers do retire, they're taking with them, according to the Federal Reserve, $10 trillion in real estate wealth, $10 trillion in real estate wealth. And so what that means is that baby boomers are going to have more disposable income for real estate speculation than any other generation before them. So real estate speculation obviously means they have their house, but then they buy additional houses, for, income and residual income purposes. And so what does that mean is that it's going to constrain the housing market further. But on top of that, baby boomers are doing a unique thing that their parents didn't do. Baby boomers are shirking the tradition of moving into retirement housing, because what they saw is that their parents, when they retired, the greatest generation, when they retired, they moved into retirement housing, and that sucked all of the income out of their portfolios, because obviously as housing increases in value, retirement housing increases in value, and then they have to pay more and more and more. So baby boomers are saying, why would we do that? There's no reason to have my portfolio bled dry in a retirement home. I'm just going to age in place. And aging in place means I'm going to stay in my house. It's paid off. Might as well stay there. So they're going to stay there longer. And that means that their houses that they're staying in do not cycle back into the real estate market as quickly as previous generations. And so that further constrains the housing market. And so when you look at that in comparison to migration, when you couple all this together, what you see is, and the metrics are right up here, this is based on census data. Goddard's growth was 17%, Wichita 4%, Kansas 3%, and the USA as a whole was 7%. But all of that combined with what you're seeing inside the state of Kansas is unique. Because in 1850, 10% of Kansas lived in urban areas, 90% lived in rural areas. It's an agrarian society, it's a farming community. By 1950, post-World War II, it was a 50-50 split. And by 2050, you're going to see a complete inversion of that statistic. 10% of Kansas are going to live in rural areas, 90% are going to live in urban areas. So what does that mean for Hayesville and transportation and KDOT and everybody else? Well, you guys get the idea, fill in the blanks. And so basically what you're going to see here is that's going to continue. Medium home costs, this is from Goddard, 2019, 2020, 2021, they're going to continue to go up. If supply cannot keep up with demand, costs go up. That's just standard economics. And so all of this combined with Baby boomers aging in place, increased construction costs, which we saw in 2020, 2021, longer construction times because constrained supply, labor shortages. There's only a certain amount of people that can bang up this drywall. You know, delayed entitlement process. Entitlements means when you go to the city, please, can I build what I want to build? Yes, you can. That's entitlement. Increased demand due to increased population, home speculation, bidding wars. You guys get the idea. It's just going to continue to drive up demand. And this affects everybody, Hazel, like everybody in this room and everyone across the state. But then, of course, the question is, where's everybody coming from, right? I mean, that's a big question. So if you're looking at state-to-state migration tables, here's Kansas. Here's where everybody's coming from. So this is according to the Census Bureau, but what you saw between 2017 and 2018, we got about 7,000 people from Oklahoma. The bulk of people came, about 27,000 people came from Missouri. We got 7,500 Texans and about 5,600 Californians, and then an interspersion of different people from across the US. And so this is this in-migration from out of state into the state of Kansas. Once again, increased demand. Increased demand without met with enough supply means increased home prices. But what does this mean within the state of Kansas? So let's go take a closer look at that. So here's all the counties. So here's Sedgwick County right in the middle. Who is moving into Sedgwick County and from what county are they moving from? And so the highest ones is, not surprisingly, Reno, Harvey, Butler, Sumner, and what is that? Cowley County. Anyway, all of those ones are influxing into Sedgwick County because unsurprisingly, Wichita is the largest city in Kansas. It's the largest job market. If you're in the surrounding rural area, and we saw that rural people are moving into the urban areas, the largest urban area is going to be Wichita. So obviously the surrounding area around Wichita is going to continue to grow, because let's look at that a little bit closer. Here's the school districts. So obviously, if you're moving into Sedgwick County, and you're moving into Wichita and the surrounding area, and you're going to say, well, where's the school district? Which ones are the best? Which ones do I want to have my kids raised? You're going to look at the surrounding area and look at how they are in terms of quality of education, lifestyle preference, and safety of the cities, et cetera. And so when you compare this with, when you compare this with 2005 and 2022 new single-family detached housing permits from the Metropolitan Area Building Construction Department, you overlay that across all the school districts, this is what it looks like. And so that's just a lot of dots, so it doesn't really do you much good. But then if you look at it by a housing bloom, so let's look at it from a heat map, there you go, that kind of makes it a little more standout. This is where all the construction's happening. And this is how it's correlated with the school district. So this shows desirability. So everybody from around Kansas, all the different states are moving into Kansas. And then which counties? The counties tend to move into Sedgwick County. And then where in Sedgwick County? Around Wichita. Well, where around Wichita? These areas. Why? Because they're the best school districts. And then what does that look like if you were to put it with permit numbers by school district? This is what it looks like. So all that to say, moving back to where we started, my presentation is the shortest and hopefully the sweetest. That's the end for me. But basically this means that we're going to continue to see this growth and this constraint of the real estate supply, and we're going to continue to see more and more demand, and we're going to continue to see Hazel and other cities approve more and more rezoning, and we're going to ask KDOT to approve more and more infrastructure and accommodate all this growth. And I guess all that to say that by March of next year, don't be surprised if your house value goes up more. So that's it for me. Do you guys have any questions?
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I guess if I look at it from a transportation perspective, which is what our job is here, the two biggest complaints that I have received from citizens in my district are, first of all, the road between Goddard and Wichita stopped every single mile, all the way down the road. So I hope that in the future that we can start working to expand the freeway. We're going west. We've been doing a great job going east. We haven't been doing a very good job going west. So that's probably the number one complaint that I hear. The number two complaint, though, is, and I don't know how much control you have over this one either, but it's called Hawkins Drive over in Goddard, and it goes down to the Tanganyika. That's probably the worst road in Sedgwick County. So,
the most fought over road in Sedgwick County, I would suppose. But yeah.
But anyway, I don't know if there's anything that we can do in the future where we can work with our public works, with your city, with Tanganyika, and it's a very short little road.
Yeah,
it comes off of Maple going over to Tanganyika, but it's a huge tourist attraction over there. But it's got a terrible road coming off of Maple going over there. So Anyway, it's something for you to think about in the future, and you can talk to my public works folks and Tanganyika, see if something can happen there too, because I do get a lot of complaints on that road.
Yeah, we welcome all options.
Very good. Any questions? I would say thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Okay, we'll go on to committee updates. And first one is the executive committee. And I talked to Chad a little bit earlier today. Our next executive committee is scheduled for November the 3rd. Unfortunately, also November 3rd, Senator Brandon's in town for luncheon. There's a bunch of things happening that day. So we may have to push it until later in the afternoon, or we're just going to have to be a little bit flexible. Chad's going to work tomorrow or sometime in the near future so that we can kind of deconflict everyone's schedule. But there are some important things that are happening the day that we have it scheduled. So I want to let everybody know, be flexible that day. Chad will get with you to let you know exactly what day and what time we're going to be able to have that. Next item is active transportation, and I don't see Alan in the room. Is anyone covering for him, or is he online? I don't see anything. We'll skip that, and we now are adding safety and health. Jack Brown. Okay. We'll go on to transit. Mike Tran. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Chairman Dennis. Appreciate it. Chad asked me to come to give you I promise to be brief, an update on City of Wichita Transit, how we're performing, how we're doing. September of 22, we actually had almost 107,000 trips taken. That is the largest single month ridership that we've had since before the system redesign in April of 2016, when a tremendous amount of ridership went away for a number of different reasons. But where we stand today is on a much better footing. We are financially sound. Our revenue is up, our mileage is up, our ridership is up, our usage is up. Can it be better? It can be very much better. What we do could expand that, how we can regionalize, how we can get people from the communities that we're talking about today into Wichita, and from Wichita back to those communities, I think is very, very important. But I think we now have some sound footing with our relationship with USD 259 and WSU. Out of those trips, 45,000 of those trips were students from elementary school all the way to university. 5,000 of those trips were veterans that were taking those trips under the contract program that we have now between the United Way and the VA. Those are veterans that are going for medical services. They're going to shop. They're going to work. They're going for a number of things just to stay connected into the community, which is very, very important. We're working with the Mental Health Coalition we did a pilot program for them back in July. We actually took 15 clients of theirs, provided them with our new mobile app, bus passes, trained them how to use public transportation. The results of that was tremendous. I can share that report. If you haven't seen that with Chad can share that with you. I think it speaks volumes to the need, but it also speaks volumes to the potential as to what we can do to improve those services for people that need them the absolute most. It is critical that we do that. In 2023, we're going to be kicking off a system redesign study with the help of WAMPO. That will take into consideration the new multimodal center, which is being built on Sycamore. And we'll look at the system from top to bottom as to how to improve it, how to create better synergies, how to create possibly micro transit, which we have a couple pilot programs we hope to run out as soon as we have the manpower to be able to do that, but to create a much more cohesive transit model for especially the choice riders, whether again be with micro transit or with commuter service, but how we take that facility and create more want for the system. How do we get to areas like Bel Air? I think it's very, very important. There's a large magnet school that's out there. Wichita School District spends, the last number I saw was about $45 million on transportation alone. A student who rides public transportation costs 80% less than to do that with the private sector. Private sector is very important. But as we look at our school taxes and what our school taxes should be spent on, I think they're much better spent on books and facilities and the things that make our kids better to deal with life as it moves on, not just to pay for a bus to take them to school. And if we can be part of that solution, we think that it in the long run will improve our community tenfold. The same with seniors. Senior ridership needs to improve. We need to get our seniors back connected on the transit system so that they can have access to all the things that they need and may have lost, because if they had a spouse that drove them, how are they going to get to their medical appointments? How are they going to get shopping? How do we help to solve the problems of food deserts? These are all things that are now within the reach of public transportation. And if we have a good plan and we have good partners, we can improve and change people's lifestyles. And that's the direction that we're going with now with transit. And it is not just Wichita. It is Wichita. It is Hayesville. It is Goddard. It is Valley Center. It is Bel Air. It is everything. And that's not that we can be everything to everybody, but I think it's important that these discussions start, because the more that we can better our community by providing better public transit service, our roads take less of a beating. They're safer. Congestion, we talked about the SAFER program. Public transportation is always part of that in communities that are progressive. We should get to that point and try to support that from that standpoint. So we're hoping that transit redesign, really what it is, it's not a study. We're going to redesign the system. We're going to improve the system. Hopefully we'll continue funding models that will allow that to continue to grow as usage grows. We don't need to put a system out there that isn't used. We need to put a system out there that is used and developed and grows. And we really think we have partnerships with Chad and his team, our team, and partners that are in this room. I think we can make some systemic changes that have only been dreamt about with public transportation. So I am here to tell you that any idea is an idea worth investigating, I think, at this point, as far as expanding and growing public transit. And we now are in a position to be part of that. So we're excited on where we're going and what we're doing. Brett Lukowski's in the room. We have a tremendous relationship with him, with our building. And we want to see that building being used for a number of different reasons for many, many years to come. And he has a fantastic team to work for. I just want to put a plug in for him. It's great working with him. That's all I have. If anybody has any questions for me, I'm always available at any time to do that.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. You mentioned a lot of groups that are really impacted by what you do. Two groups that I'm very involved with are the veterans. I appreciate what you do for all of our veterans in the community. And I'm also a member of the Substance Abuse Mental Health Association. And so I know that we're working kind of a pilot with you all in that. I appreciate your cooperation on helping us make sure that we can get people to their appointments that they need in order to be able to help their mental health.
And we as well at Transit also really appreciate your support, Mr. Dennis. It's to have friends in high places is very, very important to us. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Very good. KDOT. I don't know who we have online.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. It's Mike Moriarty from KDOT. No report from Topeka. I look forward to seeing everyone next month.
We will move on then to KDOT Metro, and we have Tom in the room, so I know he's here.
We have our usual amount of projects, but it is fall. That means some of the projects that were just 1 year inconveniences are cleaning up. So we look forward to that. We're seeing that this week and next month. We'll clean up a number of projects. Of course, that's not the North Junction. That continues to have closures every week, and we will see that almost for the next year. But it does finish. This part of the North Junction project does finish next September or October. So we look forward to that as well. And next month, we will start another phase of the North Junction project, the part that ties 235 in and K96 into the east side K96 piece. So that will start probably next year. We'll pick a contract for that very soon. And then, of course, we've got the East Kellogg project tying over to Andover that will come very soon as well. That's it.
Thank you, I appreciate it. All right, Federal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and it's great to be here in person. I try to get down here every quarter if I can. A lot is happening, not boring at DOT. So I'll just get started on a couple of things. First off, as was alluded to earlier, Safe Streets for All, the discretionary grant solicitation that closed September 15th. There will be a lot of review, hopefully some great grants here. Find out more in January, February. I know there was a really strong concerted effort for Kansas to do well. And frankly, the grants are just going to keep coming and coming and coming with Bill. There's tons of them. So one of the things I believe that Chad had shared with you all is the DOT Navigator app. If you go to transportation.gov, you do DOT Navigator, it will help you to see what upcoming grants are coming. It's a guide through system. It's going to ask, are you a local government? What are you looking for types of grants? It walks you through that. So to help you versus just the continual send outs that I've been doing and other folks within my agency, but that will help to prepare for that. 2 weeks ago, we had the LTAP conference of the 4 states, Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas. We had Tanika Burnell and Allison Rogers, who works very closely on grant coordination, come out and speak. Big attendance from the Kansas counties there. It was a very good session. There was a lot of input that came in to help because we're trying to improve our Q's and A's. So as you all apply for grants, it's more understandable. It's a better process. I mean, one of the things I'll just say is you need to tell a story. You need to say the what, the why, and really walk folks through that. That will help you in your, when it gets to the reviewers. But just a lot going on. Kansas was one of the first 35 states approved for National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Plan, and that's moving forward. We've got additional meetings coming up on these electric vehicle charging stations. Truck parking, there was a big announcement about a week ago from the department that one of the things we've done is taken a look at all of our federal highway formula programs. It's a big issue around the country, finding adequate spaces for interstate trucking, the supply chain issues we all know about. How can we make better improvements in that? So I definitely would ask that you all consider that. I know politically it's not popular to have trucks parked in your backyard, but they serve a vital purpose. And this definitely is a national issue, and there's a lot happening with that. A couple of other things in our office, most of the Federal Highway Division offices were hiring discretionary grant specialists to help because there's just going to be so much workload coming. Bill, 40% of the program is grants. 40% is discretionary grants, 60% is formula. So there's just a lot coming up. Raise grant awards, we had 2 in Kansas, 1 in the city of Salina and 1 in the Flint Hills. So that's happening. Another big area where we're really focusing in on is tribal outreach. We have 4 tribes in Kansas. So there's a lot happening, and just trying to think of anything else. I think that's about it. I'm going to be here after the meeting. I'm actually staying, and Chad and I are going to catch up a little bit. I know my staff's been very involved with Progressive Design Bill T96. That's quite an effort, and we're hopeful that that's going to be real successful. So that's all I have. Any questions for me?
Well, that's a lot. There's a lot happening coming out of the federal government right now. We appreciate it very much. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Is there anything else need to come before the WAMPO today? Chad?
Just want to thank Chairman and your leadership. Thanksgiving is coming, and happy Thanksgiving to all, because you don't meet in November and we'll meet in December. There's so much you contributed as leaders of community. You went above and beyond your local jurisdictions and helped WAMPO in many ways. So staff would like to thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, anything else? Seeing nothing, thank you all for being here today. We'll adjourn. Look forward to, well, I don't know about November yet. We'll get word out to you. Hang on. Yeah, absolutely.